Hi readers, we are going to read from the Time for Kids informational magazine about the Mars 2020 rover. If you like robots, if you like sci-fi, if you like reading about totally different worlds, I think you're really going to like this information. It's just amazing what scientists are studying right now about outer space. It's kind of fun to think about someplace so far away. So this is the robot here, and here's our Time for Kids. The title of this issue is On a Mission. So in this case, a mission is a job or an assignment that someone has been given. So these scientists have been given an assignment to study the planet Mars. If you want a quick bit of background information about Mars and the planets in the solar system, you can look at the kindergarten through second grade Time for Kids issue, Planet Power, I think it's called. It's still really good information. It's not babyish at all. But we're going to dive deeper here for you older readers to learn more about this robot. So scientists and engineers put together this robot. It has so many different tools and parts on it. And here it is on Mars. So interesting. The subtitle down here says, "The Mars 2020 rover will search for signs of past life on the red planet." So think for a moment to yourself. Why would the scientists want to study signs or evidence of past life on Mars? So you might have your own idea about that. You might not. You might not know why they want to do that. But when we're reading, we don't always know the answers to the questions we have. And I think it's important to know that as a reader. So I wonder, why do they want to study signs for past life? And it also made me think of scientists that study fossils and ancient artifacts. And why do we have scientists that study those things? What does it help us learn? So interesting. Okay, so Mars is the red planet. You notice that there is more text than photos. So we can quickly glance at the pictures here. I see a lot of robots. I see some maybe like trailers. Those are like space trailers. It looks like astronauts. I don't know if that's an illustration or a photograph. I am going to, I think if I, okay. So if I zoom in, see some power words, atmosphere and organism, they're both nouns. Okay, there's no numbers, so I can read this, these photos in any order that I want to. I like to read the captions of the photographs first. That's how I kind of get into an informational text. So down here, I see the rover. It says, "In this illustration, a rover gathers rocks that could hold clues to past life on Mars." So it's like it's looking for fossils, right? Now it said it was an illustration, so now I'm wondering if the cover was also an illustration. Okay, I'm going to read, try to read this up here. So I think that's Mars. I don't know quite how to pronounce this, but it might be Deimos and Phobos. Okay, I read it the best I could. This is Mars by the numbers. First bullet point says, "A year is the time it takes a planet to go around the sun. A year on Mars lasts 687 days. That's almost twice as long as 1 year on Earth." So that's interesting, but it makes sense to me because Earth is the third planet and Mars is the fourth planet. so it has a longer distance to go. This second bullet point is, you can jump about 3 times as high on Mars as you can on Earth. That's because of the planet's gravity. Okay, so if you were on Mars and you just did a hop, you would go higher, 3 times higher. So let's do a little inference. Does Mars have more or less gravity than we have on Earth? Does it have more or less of the force that keeps us on the ground? I think it has a little less. If we can jump higher, it doesn't have as much of that force that pulls us to the ground. And then finally, it says Mars has 2 moons, Phobos and Deimos. I read it my best, right? Here, that looks like a different kind of robot, but let's see. The rover will carry a small helicopter to Mars. Scientists can control the flying machine from Earth. Whoa, that's pretty powerful. Okay, and then I will read what the words mean. Atmosphere, it's a noun, it's a thing. The gas surrounding a planet. So our air is made up of different gases, different chemicals, but not like bad chemicals, but just different particles that we can't see in the air. Organism, it's a noun, it's a thing, it's a living thing. Okay, let's see if there's something at the bottom. There sure is. Okay, I think this is an illustration. Read with me. This NASA illustration shows astronauts on Mars. It shows what it might look like for people to live and work there. Would you want to live there? Not me. Okay, and then at the bottom here, hear this story. So if you download your own copy of this, if you go to Time for Kids and get your own issue, you can find a spot on the website, press a button, and it will also be read to you. Okay, so let's read about the Mars Explorer. So we only have one subheading, looking for clues. Remember, they're looking for signs of past life. So here we go, read with me. The surface of Mars is dry and rocky. There are no plants or animals on Mars. There is not enough oxygen to breathe either. Did the planet ever support life? NASA's sending a robot to find out. Okay, so we need oxygen to breathe. So we could not live there right now. You know, plants are animals, so plants can't live on Mars, then we can't live on Mars. We definitely need animals. Okay, keep reading with me. The Mars 2020 rover is a robotic scientist. Its job is to look for clues that there was once life on the red planet. Robots can help us answer big scientific questions, Katie Stack Morgan told Time for Kids. She's a NASA scientist. It's hard to send humans to Mars. We've never done that before, but we know how to send robots. Okay, looking for clues. I wonder what their big scientific questions are. I guess the biggest question is, was there life on Mars? Okay, here we go. NASA will launch the rover next summer. In February 2021, it will land in a crater called Jezero. The crater was once filled with water. Tiny organisms or life forms called microbes may have lived there long ago. The rover's camera will look for rocks that may contain fossils. Its 7-foot arm will reach out to drill and scrape. Rock samples will go into tubes. Future missions may bring those tubes back to Earth for study. Here we go, keep reading. The rover will also run experiments. It will test a small helicopter. This will tell scientists how flying vehicles would work in Mars' atmosphere, or their air. The rover will also test a machine that makes oxygen. The oxygen could be used to burn rocket fuel. Astronauts who travel to Mars in the future could use the fuel to get back to Earth. Oh, that's so interesting. I have to stop here and kind of think about what I just read. Good readers do that all the time. So the rover will test the helicopter to see if things can fly in the atmosphere. That makes me think, of imaginary people like living there and airplanes and things like that. But it also makes me think of just astronauts being able to land on Mars. And then a machine that makes oxygen sounds very interesting to me. So they want to make oxygen, excuse me, because the oxygen is what they need to burn rocket fuel, rocket gasoline. So that's also very interesting. Okay, this keeps popping up. Sorry about that. Finally, we finish with a quote from a scientist. Are we alone in the universe? Stack Morgan asks. Or could life have developed on another planet? The Mars rover could help us find out. So interesting. Okay, now on the last page, we've got a timeline here, which you're familiar with, that measures time from the past on the left side to the present and the future. So we start with 1960, and then this point is in the middle, and then here's 1970. Do you know what's halfway in between 1960 and 1970? 1965. And then we go 10 years to 1980, 10 years to 1990, and then that's probably what, 1997, and then the year 2000, maybe the year 2004, maybe 2010, 2018, and here we are right now. Okay, missions to Mars. NASA has sent spacecraft to Mars since the 1960s. This timeline shows big moments from past trips to the Red Planet. Well, I did not know that. I thought it was new or recent that astronauts were studying Mars. Okay, so let's look at the first mission to Mars in 1965. Mariner 4 is the first spacecraft to successfully fly by Mars. It sends back 21 images of a dry, cold planet without signs of life. All right. And then following the timeline, the next mission or trip to Mars is here in 1997. Mars Pathfinder lands with a rover named Sojourner. It is the first robot to land on Mars. It sends thousands of images back to Earth. So again, very dry. Now, the next time scientists study Mars is 2004. Read with me. The rover's Opportunity pictured. So that's the name of this robot, or that they call rovers. The rover's Opportunity and Spirit land on Mars. They find evidence that water once flowed on the red planet. And then finally, a couple years ago in 2018, NASA sends the InSight lander to Mars. It digs deep beneath the surface to study heat inside the planet. So those are the different missions that scientists or astronauts have been involved with. And You can kind of see the progression of what they learn and the details of what they learn. And then I just want to show you really quickly, hopefully you can see it, this really cool website called NASA Kids Club. And so you can click on all of this information in here. NASA STEM at Home for students. There are some games that you can play. You do need to have an adult okay this for you. Here's another game, Roving on Mars. But you can learn information as well. There's a clubhouse. I just saw a calendar with student artwork. That's pretty cool. Here's some missions, some new assignments. So these would be newer assignments. And then here's another Mars one, Curiosity Mars Rover. Insight Mars Lander. That was one of the rovers that was on that page we just read. The Insight landed on Mars in 2004. That's what the text told us. We have the Mars Perseverance rover. Looks like there's even more. So I encourage you to go to this site and learn more about the missions on Mars. Thank you for reading all of this information with me, and I'll see you next time.